So once we've established the plan, we might want to add to it and extend it. And one of the great things and unique things about Power Project is the ability to create more than one activity on one row of the plan, which really helps you condense the plan. So if we were going to create columns between the ground and the first floor, and we wanted to do it in two sections, we wouldn't have to put a second one on another row. Only in Power Project we can create that same activity on the same row. There's no limit to the number of activities that you can have on one row. They are different activities in their own right. They can have a different activity code, they can have a different resource and cost, they can have a different logical arrangement. They're not pseudo tasks in the same way they are in Microsoft Project, and the ability to do this helps us condense a lot of information at one time. The other thing great use for that is for procurement items. How are we going to appoint that trade contractor? And so we can also in Power Project have groups of preset activities, little fragments of a project that we use again and again, and we can take one of our short procurement steps, we can copy that to the clipboard and we can paste it into this particular part of our plan. And then we can say, well, if I link that into our foundations work, so this is going to be our foundation procurement, then when we schedule that, then it's going to move those activities around, and we can then see that that's delaying our foundation work. We can either shorten part of our plan so we don't have to break it apart from the general group and see what impact that has. By default, these do sit in between the activities on either side, but you can also allow these activities to overlap in their own right, and if you do that, then we need to restrain them with links. So we're going to restrain all of these with a finish to start, but we're going to say that this one, as long as the last 3 days of the procurement has happened, then that will be fine. So if we reschedule that, then it's no longer interfering with our procurement activities. So multiple activities is a great part of the plan. So, and the other part is grouping items together. So we can say, well, all of these items, this group of items, they belong to a group of items which we can either create as we go along, or we can have in a library of preset processes. We can summarize those and say all of that is the substructure. And then we can click on the minus sign to collapse it, or we can double click on the graphic to expand it. And so we can, in this way, create a work breakdown structure, a hierarchy, which we can see in the left-hand view over here. So we can just click on the word substructure. We can just look at that part of the work breakdown structure in isolation. So we might want to put this information in a group called procurement, so we can hide all the details if we want to. We can perhaps get rid of this and bring in one of our task pools for the superstructure, which has already got some of these items predefined. So the creation of a plan can be very rapid indeed. So once we've linked our plan together, we can then reschedule it, and we've got a very detailed plan of action for all the items that we need to carry out. We can pick up one activity and move it at one time. We can pick up a whole series of activities, including a summary, a group of activities. We can pick all those up and move them in one operation. And we can do that graphically, but we can also do that numerically with the toolbar. So we can say we want to take minus 3 weeks off the start date of all those selected items. We can do that. We can say that we want to increase the duration of those selected activities by 25%, for example. So it's a very powerful editing environment. Everything that we've done, we can undo. We're going right back to a reschedule, for example. So there's no limit to the amount of information that you can't undo. That includes going back through a save. We can put in post-start dates on activities. So we might say, well, the drains could start then, but in fact they can't start until the 15th of April. And if I reschedule, it'll move back. But if I undo that and I then add a impose start or end dates, we can say that this activity can't start any earlier than that, and that might have an impact on the activities around it and when things might start or finish. So any activity can have any constraint or combination of constraints. One of the more powerful things about Power Project is the ability to have multiple activities between two activities. So in this particular circumstance, I'll increase the zoom scale so we can see that better. We've got one link between these two activities, and that's all that you could achieve in Microsoft Project. And so you might say, well, when the first 10 days of the foundation task have been completed, the ground floor slab can continue. But if the foundations were to take longer, if they were to take us 6 weeks instead of 4 weeks and 4 days, and we reschedule, there is no impact on the end date because there's no restraint between the end of this activity and any part of the following activity. So in Power Project you can also have a link from the end of an activity or any part of an activity to any part of another activity. So the last 5 days of the ground floor slab must continue once the foundations are finished. So if we schedule, it's going to make no difference now, but if we change the duration of this activity and we schedule again, you see the knock-on impact, and you can prove cause and effect from something that's happening in your project that maybe is outside your control. So the ability to have multiple activities, multiple links between multiple activities is very powerful in Power Project, and it also combines with the calendaring. So any activity can have a different calendar. So perhaps we say, well, to catch up some time, we'll work 7 days a week on the foundations. So we can take another activity, another calendar that we've created, and we can bring it onto the particular activity. We can choose to see the effect of that, and then when we reschedule, we can see the impact of that particular process, which in this case has been 0, but we're going to see that this activity is no longer critical because there's a Saturday and Sunday at the other end, and so we can see the impact of that in another window. And so we can see in this particular case that this activity finishes on a Friday, and this one, but it could continue through the weekend. So multiple tasks, multiple calendars, and Power Project is more powerful than Primavera in those circumstances. We can also have different sorts of activities. So if this is just part of my plan, and I schedule again, I want to say that I want to have a 10-day buffer activity in this particular plan, and I can convert that activity into a buffer task, such that if we schedule, it has no effect, but if we extend an activity that's going to have some impact on the end date, then the function of a buffer activity is to shrink in size and to protect the end date. So you can carry out critical chain or lean construction planning directly in Power Project without the need for any third-party tools. So Power Project is a very powerful environment for accurate scheduling.